got a bit of a drive ahead of me, so I thought I'd pose an interesting question. Unusual in these videos, but I had to explain something to you by this question. What does the transgender movement have in common with nuclear power? An interesting question. And what I am going to do a spoiler thing and tell you the answer before I start explaining my way through it. I hope you'll bear with me on this. Both are taking over old industries, but are still being stymied by certain aspects of seemingly minor significance. I'll be honest, I came up with that answer, or it's the phrasing of that answer on the fly. But what do I mean by that? Well, let's look at what nuclear power is replacing. It's replacing all of the fossil fuels. Well, it should do anyway. Fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and natural gas. Now, many people say that the only alternatives have to be renewables, such as wind, solar, tidal, and hydroelectrics, as well as geothermal if we can get it. But nuclear is a bit more reliable. Not only that, it's much more efficient. It said that a piece you can hold in your hand could run several thousand electric heaters for 24 hours. Even if the radiation would kill you if you held it in your hand. It's an incredible stuff. The fuel is capable of powering homes across the world, and more importantly, we can increase the reaction, we can slow down the reaction, we've got a lot of control over it. Why then hasn't nuclear energy taken over as the primary power source of the national grid? Simple answer: some key accidents. Some blown completely out of proportion, some certainly cautionary tales. The classic ones are Fukushima Daiichi in Japan, Chernobyl in the Ukraine, and supposedly 3 Mile Island in the USA. If anyone else knows of any nuclear disasters, by all means let me know. It's important to remember though that these are only minor incidences, often with extreme circumstances added to them. Fukushima, for example, that was caused by a tsunami. Everything went well during the earthquake. Then the tsunami hit and blew out some of the power, which started the meltdown of the reactors. Chernobyl, that was really an accident waiting to happen. because people weren't paying attention. So why then are we dragging our feet? We know the safeties, but here's the thing. Coal, oil and gas, they've all caused just as many deaths as all those disasters combined nearly every year. So far from being the big glaring red flag, nuclear energy is safer, cleaner, it doesn't put out anywhere near as much greenhouse gases. It's also much more efficient. And compared to all the other industries, it's definitely easier to manage. And a heck of a lot safer. But does that mean that everything is going to be nuclear? No. Nuclear powered cars may sound cool, but driving around with little atom bombs in a vehicle that could quite easily crash is not a good idea. So mini nuclear reactors is a very bad idea. As a result, we're reliant on central nuclear facilities to power the national grid, making it very much a centralised thing that is very susceptible to damage, as Fukushima proved. I don't know how much of Japan's power was supplied by Fukushima, but I have a feeling there's at least most of that prefecture that got its power from that one power station. Coal, oil and gas, they are a bit more decentralised. Back in the day, nearly everyone had a coal fire, a wood-burning stove, a gas boiler, or could even stoke their boiler with coal. There's a reason why they had a coal man as well as a milkman. It may be damaging for the environment and certainly polluting. But here's the thing. You can survive in the event of a supply cut a bit more effectively if you have your own stocks, if you have your own source. A little bit of oil in any sort of form can keep a boiler going for quite some time. You can also use it to cook on your stove. Some people even make charcoal out of it. Also, it's historical. Some things cannot run on anything else. Little gas stoves are far more efficient than tiny induction hobs. Whilst induction forges are a thing, they need to generate tremendous amounts of energy in order to heat up something. Gas, coal and charcoal forges are excellent for smelting things. As a blacksmith, I know that you cannot easily make your own induction forge. You need to know exactly what you're doing. Furthermore, an appreciation of how our ancestors did it helps us understand just how lucky we are to have the convenience of certain things in our lives. The effort of making a spear, going out and hunting, the effort of making an eating spike, or hammering a shield into a boss, or the other way around. That makes you understand, really, what it would have been like for people back in the days where that was their lifestyle. I know I'm bringing vegetarianism and veganism into this, but I will say that the stark contrast between our understanding of where certain foods come from and the animals that produce the food in the first place either causes the brainwashing, the total disconnect between animals and food, or the over-connection resulting in people refusing to eat meat or any other animal products. So, does that affect how we view the past? It does. If we forget where we came from, we don't know how to proceed. What has this got to do with the transgender movement? Well, what's transgender? What's the transgender ideal? Really taking over? Well, many would say it's taking over the religious ideologies that supposedly oppose all LGBTQ and anything they want to be. Not only, as far as I can tell, there's nothing in the Bible that directly discounts the LGBTQIA. But you've got to remember that introducing people to the idea of sex before they understand the dangers and the consequences of sex without anything to guide them, you end up with a slew of STDs, a slew of unwanted pregnancies, and ultimately people making rash decisions. People may say, and quite rightly so, that it's people's intolerances towards the LGBTQIA+ that cause some members to be suicidal before they even find out the community and the fact they can be accepted for who they are. But sometimes over-acceptance results in questionable decisions being made later on. That's why I'm actually against people being able to transition from one sex without a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. Not to say that anyone and everyone who wants to transition is going to be a molester, or for that matter, is going to be changing their mind because it's merely a phase. No. But because it's a service for those that need it, not a service for those that want it. Certainly, I think if a person genuinely needs it, and for that they require the diagnosis of gender dysphoria, and the recommended course of treatment is indeed a transition, that should be on the NHS. Or in the US, that should be covered by insurance. Otherwise, it is something you have to fork out for. Because if you're going to be changing back and forth constantly, that should not be at the taxpayer's expense. That should not be on the premium payer's expense. No. That should be out of the pocket of the person who's trying to play the system. Is Christianity or any religion in the same realm as the fossil fuel industry? Well, yes. Because you've got to remember, whilst there are extremely damaging things that have happened in the Christian population, with people being abused, people being forced into cults, people being involved in trafficking, abuse by members of religious communities and so forth, all of that, we have so many examples of them because Christianity has 2,000 years on the LGBTQ+. Yes, I will point out that there have been similar abuses by members of the LGBTQIA+ on similar people within their power. Do we talk about them much? Not a great deal. And sometimes we say, oh, that's religion's fault because they were oppressed. And that could certainly be the case. But as many people would point out, in the cases where they're certainly not oppressed, and they choose to do it anyway, they are so-called not members of the community. We all do the same when it comes to Christians. We'd say they're not true Christians, they don't have the same Christian values. It's the exact same thing. There is a social structure that surrounds religion and something that will have to change in order to allow the total acceptance of the LGBTQIA+. In a similar way that there is a strong industrial structure surrounding fossil fuels that has to change in order to allow the total acceptance of nuclear power. There's also a social aspect, which is their public perception. All we need is a few more high-profile cases of members of the LGBTQIA+ abusing people in their power. Genuinely happening, by the way, not just rumours. Not like 3 Mile Island. A genuine problem. And you can see the entire movement just being stymied. Is that benefiting people? Not really. So whilst the LGBTQIA+ and nuclear energy are alarmingly similar in these regards, the one thing I will constantly impress on people is the need for education, the need for understanding everyone and everything. Just because it's something you disagree on doesn't mean it's not something that will not benefit society in the long run. We just need to be educated about it as fully as possible. So remember that.